Bitcoin, Cardano, and crypto markets in general getting a bit of a bounce after a crazy bearish move to the downside. Is it sustainable, this bounce, and will it continue? What is up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Capital Venture. Hit that subscribe on the way, and let's jump right into the video. It's 9:30 a.m. as I record the video. S&P 500 index literally seconds ago, just opening a new candle, and you can just see right now from where it closed yesterday, up around 1%. And this is going to be telling going into today, Friday, but also this weekend, right? As markets close, you go to something like Tesla, and you can see Tesla also opening. Let's see, right now, just above 5% with a red 6-hour candle in play. So it's kind of like right now we really are in that environment, watching traditional markets and seeing what type of momentum shift are we going to see with traditional markets. And this is really too early to tell right now. We're seconds in right now, 1 minute into markets opening. But this is really, truly affecting and impacting crypto markets, right? Especially if you've been in crypto, you know that the last few days have been absolutely insane to watch with the Terra Luna situation, right? And I think a lot of us are like, man, crypto's really down because of that. And it's true. I think that really, really did not help things. But we can't forget the fact that it wasn't just crypto that has been suffering, right? The entire equities markets pretty much also suffering to the downside. And yesterday was not a pretty day either. So here we are, and we're continuing to track that in synergy with Bitcoin and Cardano and crypto markets. And so let's do that. Let's take it into context, but let's shift now to Bitcoin charts on the weekly. And this is really important stuff. We've been tracking for years these Fibonacci higher low areas, these bear market low areas. And just to give you an idea of what that is in case you're unaware, here's a 2013 swing low to a crazy swing high above $1,000 in 2013. And Bitcoin kind of retraced all the way down from that 1,000 plus, right? All the way into this Fibonacci range and below the 786 for a bear market low, for a bottoming out season. Let's get rid of that Fibonacci. Now, let's go to the next Fibonacci. So that is that bottoming out season in 2015 to the 2017 bull market high. And then many of us, because I wasn't really here back then, right? Living through all that 2015 bear market, 2013 high. I wasn't here. Many of us, though, were here and then going into this bear market season, this bear market low, also falling through a macro Fibonacci, right? So the 618 was right around 8,000, 786 around 4,200, and Bitcoin fell below that for a bottoming out. And we've been tracking that. And it's been very compelling data to see if once again this plays out to the downside, right? Wherever Bitcoin's all-time high will be. And so we have Bitcoin from the last bottoming out area in 2018 to the all-time high of Fibonacci. Bitcoin has officially revisited the higher low Fibonacci. I mean, it really has in terms of where we are in this cycle. If back here we could have said, hey, Bitcoin's almost getting there to the 618 line, but this was very quick. This was a lot of velocity to the swing high, and Bitcoin actually never even revisited the Fibonacci. But this time around, in this move, in this week, we can say we've put in a touch to the 618 line around $28,300. And we've been tracking this Fibonacci, and it is in play now. Now the question is, how much lower can Bitcoin go? Will Bitcoin diverge from this move of kind of falling into the Fibonacci and then actually below the 786 and actually fall below the 786, below 17,000? Will that happen again? Could the chart be that consistent? I charted this chart back in the bear market low of 2018, and this yellow line was a Fibonacci that's based off of, I believe, a 90,000 swing high, but it's based off the 786 line of the Fibonacci, and that's around 21,000 at the time when I charted it. Obviously, that 786 line is different, but I had Bitcoin retracing to it, right? And so if we go back to this weekly chart and we look at this Fibonacci now in real time and where it is, we have a 618 around 28,000 and the 786 around 17,000. This entire range, I think we should be very prepared for, especially as, once again, we monitor traditional markets. I'm not quite sure those markets are out of the woods just yet. This could be months before there begins to be a positive sentiment shift, and we have to really watch that. But with all of that said, the storyline is here. It's 100% in play. From this 618 to the 786 is a 40% move, right? And then anything below could be a capitulation environment if it were to happen. Now, the question is, will this move continue to the upside? And that's just it, right? We get these kind of capitulation candles, and we really see it on the weekly too, the 618 line. And there is a case, I guess you could say, when you're really looking at these charts, that Bitcoin could truly actually bounce and maybe diverge from traditional markets, or maybe traditional markets do turn around. But if you look at the RSI in terms of Bitcoin, we're looking at around, right now, this 35 area, and it's getting very close to this area where it's been oversold historically, and these historical oversold areas are these bottoming out areas. But keep in mind, if you look at these bottoming out areas, even as Bitcoin's bottoming out on the RSI, it's still a winter, right? And there's still a lot of volatility. And so that could be the type of environment that we're in. So in terms of answering the question, is the bounce sustainable or will it continue? It depends how you define bounce. And if we're looking at this bounce off of the 618 line on the Fibonacci, and this is how you define bounce, my guess would be no, right? And this isn't financial advice. This is my opinion. I think Bitcoin needs to bottom out. And I don't think necessarily that means just a quick capitulation and it's bottomed out and then it's off to the races. This could take weeks. It could take months. And Bitcoin still, just because we've put in a nice weekly candle, the weekly candle is not closed. There's still 2 days, 11 hours. What happens going into this weekend, right? We have to monitor that. And the 200-week moving average down here as well is something we should just keep in mind around the $22,000 area. Now, if we're digging in real quick on the daily chart, I just want to note something. Having this conversation of is, in terms of this balance of is it going to continue and is it sustainable and things like this, it is way too early to have that conversation. And this is why. If you're looking at these moving averages, Bitcoin is still, even after the bounce, from the 50-day moving average, it is still 25% overextended from the 50-day moving average. That's a lot. If you look at the wick on this daily, it was 37% overextended from the 50-day moving average in blue. We need to see Bitcoin, at the very least, test these moving averages. We're talking about the 20-day, the 50-day, and we need, as often is the case, to see it start not breaking through, but seeing support above and higher lows above. Then we can really start talking about, is it sustainable and can it continue? Because right now, Bitcoin's in a kind of a downfall. And though we've gotten a nice bounce in the short term, this daily candle in green that we're seeing here currently, it's really nothing special, right? It really is nothing special until we start seeing how it's interacting with these moving averages, and we start seeing how its momentum is interacting with these moving averages, if there's power in the move. And so we have to wait and we have to see in terms of what that might look like. But again, bringing all these things together, Bitcoin, interestingly, testing that 618 line that we just looked at on the macro while we watch S&P 500 index right here and traditional markets, and we see what they do today. This will be very telling to see. But truly, I mean, if we go back real quick to conclude the Bitcoin charts, Bitcoin could be putting in a bottoming area. The point is we have to give it a little bit more time, collect a little bit more data in terms of, is it going to continue, right? And there's a big test ahead for Bitcoin if it's going to continue, because we also just got the 20-week moving average crossing below the 50-week. So let's see what happens. This totally could be the type of environment, a quicker bounce environment like we saw in the COVID swing low. But I just think traditional markets and what they're doing might kind of fight against that case. So let's continue tracking on Bitcoin, and let's pivot over to Cardano. This is Cardano on the weekly chart. I'm not going to show a clip, but I'm just it, and I say this I think a lot on this YouTube channel. It's just crazy how targets get hit, and even if there's other outside influences moving price, and this isn't just Cardano, but it's Bitcoin, it's whatever targets are being hit, no matter what influences, there's at least an immediate bounce. And it's not always, but so often it happens, there's a bounce, there's structure beginning to be formed. And what I'm talking about here is the 50-cent target that we've been talking about all year long, right? All year long. And what adds to it is the fact that it bounced off our 80-cent target, formed structure before making its way to the 50-cent target. So Cardano has made its way, ADA has made its way to the 50-cent target. That's crazy to see. Crazier to see is the bounce that Cardano saw on this weekly at that range. And so this is what I'm watching right now. We've finally hit the 200-week moving average, and this is really cool data to track, but it's also, from what it took to get here, it could be quite concerning, and that's depending on how you're looking at it, right? If you want cheaper ADA, it's very much in play right now, because if you're considering ADA versus Bitcoin right now, and ADA has already hit its 50-cent target, it's pretty low target after it's already been at $3. But if we're saying that there's continued potential room for downside for Bitcoin, even to 22,000, the 200-week moving average, its own 200-week moving average, that means that there's a very strong possibility Cardano actually goes further than this target. That's for the next kind of talking point. But the first talking point is we've hit the 50-cent target. What will structure do now at this 50-cent target? 2 days, 11 hours left on the weekly. Number one, right around 54 cents is the 200-week moving average. Will ADA close above that? And then number two, will ADA close above the 50-cent target? Just a very small range below the 200-week moving average. Going to the daily chart, this is what we're looking at. The bounce is in, right? It's great to see this, but there's two things we have to keep an eye out for, and it's very similar to what we just talked about on Bitcoin. And I want to illustrate it with the momentum oscillators. Here's Cardano falling into oversold, right? And it's not often, it's not all of the time Cardano's falling into that territory on the daily chart. So when we're looking at historical data, it's very helpful, I think. The momentum oscillators are some of my favorite indicators. So let's kind of first put a horizontal line where this swing low is. And let's identify the fact that, wow, this is the most oversold ADA has been since May 20th on this March 2020 on this daily chart. Now, this is what we're watching for. It's one thing to say it's oversold and we're going to get a bounce now, it's going to be awesome. But it's another to see what's happened previously in a downtrend. ADA has not been this oversold before, but it's fallen very close to these territories previously in previous months, and it's all been in this downtrend. And Cardano just keeps failing at these moving averages that we've been talking about. It gets the bounce out of these oversold environments, and then it's just like whether it bounces right to the 20-day and the 50-day, or maybe it just kind of consolidates and then the 20-day and 50-day are kind of moving into it. ADA just continually has not shown the strength to just break above and trade above with higher lows and higher highs, those moving averages. And that's what we're waiting for. And so just a perfect example of what we don't want to see is what's happened in this entire downtrend. ADA, and we've tracked it all the time, ADA has continually failed to see support above those moving averages, if not just failing to break above them in general. Look at this. It's failed a lot. Now, if we're going back, though, and we're looking at, all right, well, what kind of bullish confirmation could we see in ADA? The COVID swing low is a perfect example. We get the bounce. It briefly tests the 20 days. It meets it, and you can see it took some days to get there, and then it just starts trading above it. And then it still trades above it, higher highs and higher lows, above all moving averages. That's the momentum shift that we're looking for. will it happen is something yet to be seen. This is why I'm tracking this data, because it's what I want to see. And along that line, we're going to continue to watch how structure forms now after this daily wick. And you can see that wick it's a pretty big wick. I mean, yesterday's daily candle is pretty dramatic. This was going down to 38 cents here on the daily chart. So let's see what happens now in terms of Cardano turning this thing around. But now that 50 cent was hit, I think we can anticipate some structure. It'll be interesting to see what kind of structure we get. We speculated a little bit the other day about what kind of structure we get. But really right now, 20-day moving average around 74 cents. It is up there. So Cardano overextended from the 50-day. Right now, 38%. At one point, it was overextended 58%. That's crazy. I think at Bitcoin's, what did we just see? We just saw on Bitcoin swing low. I think it was overextended around 37%. That's where Cardano is right now. And that's why if we go over and we look at an ADA BTC chart, you can see a nice green move for Cardano right now. But the story is the same on the ADA BTC chart in terms of these moving averages. When's ADA going to find that strength? I truly think it's going to find that strength one of these days. Don't know if it's in the short term or midterm or long term. But what I do know is the long-term story of Cardano continues to play out. And after all of this downtrend, and let me get rid of this. After all of this downtrend, look at this. ADA putting in a macro higher low on this ADA BTC chart. This says a lot. ADA very close to oversold on the ADA BTC chart. Maybe there's more downside, but what happens when ADA separates and explodes to the upside on this ADA BTC chart? I think it's only a matter of time. And don't forget, if we're looking at ADA, Vassal hard fork in play. This will be an interesting data point to track against all cryptos to see how ADA kind of operates going into the end of June. We still have around a month and a half. We've seen the previous hard fork events in green. Alonzo, Mary, and Shelley. Cardano performed very well. Will that happen again? And to bring it really full circle, will the S&P 500 index, will NASDAQ, will traditional markets in general have anything to do with that? And we're going to track sentiment across all markets, and we will see. I hope you all have a great day. It's Friday. Enjoy the day. Crypto markets are crazy as always, but it's a beautiful day outside. So I hope you have a good day. Hit the subscribe and like on the way out. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.